Well, I'm way too loud and I'm way too proud, and I've been called a fool a time or two, because I drink and I smoke and I always have a joke about all the hell that I put myself through. And I've got a few old friends that the good times never end. One call and there's a party on tonight. Well, I'm a rambling man and I do the best I can. You know my mama, she tried to raise me right. Some hearts along the way, too many names for me to say. You know I never meant to do no harm. I dove to the bottom of a bottle, tried to wash away my sorrow, just to wind up with another in my arms. And I've been through hell and half of Georgia, and you know I need to warn ya, I've never been one to turn down a fight. I've got fire in my veins and trouble is my name. I have never been accused of being lame, because nothing's gonna change me. This you need to know. Hard living is the only life I know. If you can't take the ride, I said I guess you need to go. But if you have got what it takes, then welcome to the show.
All right, welcome to Project Dark Corona.
Welcome to the show.
Got a great show tonight. We got Lyle Blackburn.
Oh man, been looking forward to this one for a while.
Yes. So, before we get into conversation with Lyle, though, David's got to do his little spiel.
Uh-oh, we're going to do the spiel. So, let everybody know we are simulcasting live to Spreaker and to Podbean. If you come over to the website, though, projectdarkcorona.org, go into the live Area 51 chat room, and you can chat with us there also, where we could throw up pictures and all kinds of fun stuff while we're talking to you. So it's a little more interactive. So, you know, come on over to the website. Also, you can see us at our Twitter at Project Dark Coro, and you can also visit us on our Facebook page. Oh, there's that Twitter bird. I did things a little backwards, didn't I? Then you could also come over to our Facebook page, Everything Paranormal, Bigfoot, UFOs, Aliens, and Ghosts. Yeah. So, yeah. And so, you know, come over to the website, which is projectdarkcorona.org. Sign up, become a member. It's free. Doesn't cost nothing. And when we do shows like this, you come into the chat room, which you can come in without being a member. But if you're a member, you know, it'll show your name and everything, your username and everything up there in the chat room. And yeah, come and join us.
Oh, yeah. Join us. So, tonight we got Lyle Blackburn. Oh, yeah. What do you think about Lyle Blackburn, though?
Oh, man.
Going to be a good guest.
Excellent.
Also, if you go on projectdarkcorona.org, you can sign up, like David said, for free, or you can become a premium member for, what?
$2.
$2. And that'll get you some premium content, premium blogs. It's just a lot different from regular member.
We get premium shows that we do throughout the week. So you get a few things.
And if you don't want to sign up and become a premium member, you can still donate with the donate button. Help out the website.
That's right. We'll take your couch fixing money. I like saying that. That's fun.
So we got to do a little weird news too with David.
Thank you, Jason. So, weird news tonight. I'm going to be talking about the 1947 alien autopsy film. Remember that film that came out in the early 2000s, late 90s? No, it was about the mid 90s, I think it was.
Watched it a couple of times.
Yeah.
On VHS.
Everybody thought it was real until it started coming out that, it was all fake. And so I'm going to post up a link here in the chat room so everybody can kind of click on it there. And you can see this as I'm talking about it. It pops up in the same little window, so all you have to do is just click over to next to it, and it'll go away when you're done. So this frame right here that I just posted is up for sale at an auction. They're wanting $1 million, $1 million for it. So this is allegedly part of a 1947 medical autopsy. And so when they got this, he was actually looking for some footage for a famous rock and roller, and he come across this guy that he was a Army public information officer, and Ray Santilli is the one who, I lost Lyle Blackburn. Ray Santilli is who actually bought this in 1995. Is when the documentary aired. Sherry says it looks like he has glasses on. So he acquired the film in 92 from a retired U.S. military cameraman looking for archival footage of Elvis Presley. Uh-oh. And looking for archival footage of Elvis Presley, he found this. And so, Santilli argued that the film was genuine, and skeptics disagreed. And their suspicions were seemingly validated in 2006 when a sculptor and special effects designer named John Humphreys claimed that not only had he crafted the alien in the autopsy footage, but he also appeared in the film as one of the pathologists. Is that not crazy? Another self-identified participant of the hoax came forward in 2017, and filmmaker Cypros said that he had shot the footage in his London apartment using a model filled with animal organs, as reported by Australian news site. So, everybody says that this was faked. And so his official story was that he didn't fake it, that he actually bought the original footage, but when he finally got it 2 years later, the film had degraded, and when he tried to play it, then it fell apart. And so they recreated what it was that he had seen in the footage using some of the original film that didn't, completely expire.
So just some of the film?
Some of the film. Very few pieces, but yes, some of the film. And this piece that's up for auction with the alien in it was one of those pictures. And he said the reason he picked this picture was that it was the best representation of the film, and also was the best as far as how it looks. The rest of them are way too far degraded to have a good picture or anything like that. So, so that's the alien autopsy film that's, or piece of film that's being sold. And I don't know. What do you think, Jason?
I watched the film. I mean, it looks real, and some of the, even in the picture that you showed right there, there's a report that describes that same alien that looked that way.
Well, he said that he's going to get, or whoever wins it, also gets a streak of unique code that verifies the film's authenticity. Actually says that it is from the 40s. And it also is going to get the actual frame, and they're going to get a document from the CIA claiming the how authentic that this is.
All for $1 million.
That's the starting bid. He was on on another show that I was listening to the other day, and he said that he expects it to go for about 10 times that.
Oh.
Now, if you're wanting to bid on this, tomorrow is the last day. It ends on 5:30. That's the last day of the auction. So, just saying.
Get your checkbook out. I'm ready to talk a little cryptids, right? A little Boggy
like,
Creek Monster.
Yes, I'm ready.
We got Lyle Blackburn. He's on the line with us. Lyle is a native Texan known for his work in writing, music, and film. He is the author of several acclaimed books, including The Beast of Boggy Creek and The Lizard Man. And I have to say, The Lizard Man, I've read, I've got it, and I love it. It's authentic. I mean, the way he writes, he's telling his story too. And so he's also a frequent guest on radio programs such as Coast to Coast, and has featured in many television shows. I'm not going to name them. He can do that if he wants to.
Yeah.
I've watched him.
Way too many.
I've watched him for 2 weeks straight, so I know Lyle Blackburn just a little bit. He's also a musician, if some of you didn't know.
Yes, and after our first break, we're going to play some music.
We're going to play some music from his band.
Ghoultown.
The Ghoultown,
yeah. So we can go ahead and bring him on there.
Hey, Lyle.
Hey, guys.
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Also, he's on location.
He is.
He is.
That was something, yes.
I should have said that, but I didn't.
He's actually looking for the Fook monster as we speak, aren't you?
Is it the
That's right. I'm calling you from lovely Falk, Arkansas, and I'm sitting pretty close to the edge of Mercer Bayou, which is one of the bottomlands where there's been a long history of sightings. And kind of a last-minute trip. I come up here, every so often from where I live in Texas, and I got a call from a woman who had some activity around her house and had recorded some audio of a really, really good howl, a scream howl thing, which sounded very similar to something I've heard in this location. And so I thought, hey, it's a good, good opportunity to come up and check that out. And, I already had this scheduled, so I thought, well, heck, I'll call you from right up here on location. So, I just left her house and I'm coming down here to where we're going to be camping out, which we saw something kind of strange earlier today, oddly enough. But so that's where I'm at.
Man, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
We really do appreciate you taking the time out to call us and do this little show. I think it means a lot to us because we're pretty good fans. Right?
Yes, absolutely. Lee's got your shirt on.
Yeah, the Legend of Boggy Creek, the Bobby Ford shirt. I'm wearing it right now.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. I sold those out pretty fast.
Oh, yeah.
And so if you got one, you're fairly lucky.
My kids last night was saying, who's going to be on the show? I said, see that guy right there on TV? We was watching Boggy Creek, the documentary that you made. And I said, right there, we're going to be talking to him. And these are 7 and 6-year-old kids. So they enjoy that stuff too.
That's awesome.
So, you want to, for some people who may not know too much about, the legend of Boggy Creek, you want to enlighten some of these people?
So, the legend of Boggy Creek is, one of the sort of seminal Bigfoot cases that was made famous by the movie called The Legend of Boggy Creek, which was released in 1972. and it was sort of a docudrama, one of the earliest format of where they reenacted witness stories and sightings, and these were based on real things, and it was became sort of a horror movie slash Bigfoot show, like you would see now, where they interview witnesses and you hear the stories. And it was extremely popular, and it made millions in the theaters back in the 70s. And it was one thing that established that Bigfoot sightings didn't just take place in the Pacific Northwest, which was kind of the thinking back in the late 60s, early 70s, Patterson-Gimlin film and such. And, even though it was called the Fouke Monster or Boggy Creek Monster, essentially it's, a southern Sasquatch. So I had seen it when I was young and thought the story was amazing, based on a real story, real reports. And I grew up hunting and fishing, going to all these small towns and camping in these areas with my father. And I love the outdoors, and I love the Bigfoot subject. So, fast forward many years later, I spent many years as a musician touring and things, and was always kind of reading and studying on cryptids, and decided I would write a book on the history of the legend of Boggy Creek, and that was The Beast of Boggy Creek, which came out in 2012, and that's kind of where I started in with the books and television shows called thereafter, and that set me on this path.
Yeah, I know. The Legend of Boggy Creek, it became the 11th highest grossing film of 72, and people still watch that thing. I mean, all the time. But now I know that there's something that happened there. Like, so they found some tracks, claw marks and stuff like that, but one of the tracks actually only had 3 toes. Now, do you think that it's a different creature? Because some tried to use that as a way to say, see, it's not, it's a hoax or whatever.
Right. Yeah. The 3-toed tracks, present another puzzle within a puzzle almost, because the thinking is that Bigfoot traditionally has 5 toes. Well, primates have 5 toes. We do. It's really the anatomy of primate, like creatures. And the Boggy Creek tracks, there was a few reports around 1971 when this all kind of started making the news in the newspapers. And then in June of 1971, they found an extensive trackway that went across a freshly plowed bean field. And the tracks measured about 14 inches long and about 6 inches wide, and had 3 toes. And so it's like, well, what is this thing? Is this a deformity? Is this its natural anatomy? Is it a hoax? No one could ever quite, especially back in 1971, we didn't have, they couldn't call, serious researchers. It was just sort of like, well, these are weird tracks, and they made some crude castings. And so I'm never quite certain as to whether those tracks were the tracks of the creature or not, but it kind of gave the reputation that southern Sasquatch has 3 toes, which certainly isn't representative of all Bigfoot tracks as we know, even in the South.
Yeah.
But I found something up here which looked like a pretty good track, and it appeared to have 3 or 4 toes. So I'm still hung jury on whether some of these creatures, have 5 and some of them have less.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I've seen a cast of a 3-toed one I can't remember where, but I've seen that in something.
Yeah. There's a surviving cast from 71 from Fouke. It's a pretty crude casting that has 3 toes, and then I tried to create a replica based on photos of it. And the photos you see from the Texarkana Gazette newspaper, you can see much more readily the shape of the track and everything. So I kind of tried to create what it would look like in 3D to try to think, is this something that a 7-foot tall bipedal ape-like creature could, would this be its foot? And then, there's been a few other three-toed tracks that have been cast over the years in various spots, but, by and large, most of them are 5-toed, and even some of the ones that have been discovered down here show 5 toes.
That's, I don't know. I just heard, about that 3-toed one, and I was just thinking, I mean, I haven't seen a picture or anything of it, and maybe I should have looked it up a little bit more, but could it have been just stepped on hard ground and just got some of the print, didn't get all the print, or did it look like that was the actual anatomy of the foot to make 3 toes?
Well, in that famous trackway, it definitely was the anatomy of universally, because that track was 100 yards long. So the multi, and it was in freshly plowed soil. So there was no mistake, the shape of it at all. If it was, if it was something and, you found that just a hole out somewhere, kind of like the one I found up here, it was just one track and it was going perpendicular across a little 2-rut road back in a kind of an abandoned hunting area. Well, there was only the one track. So in that case, it could have just didn't register the other toes. And I couldn't quite tell if it had 3 or 4. But that one was definitely, over and over, you could see the track. And the fact that it was such a long trackway is one reason it can't be a hoax. It's just there's too many tracks, and it's impossible for somebody to do that kind of stride and, leaving tracks of their own.
Right. Yeah. I'm sitting here looking at a picture of it right now. It's, I'm about to post this up, everybody, in the chat room so you can see it. This is, I could tell now it's definitely, it is 100%, part of the anatomy of this foot. Cause, wow.
But again, I've looked into that and talked to a lot of people up here, and not 100% sure it's, and this happens, there's all of a sudden there's a monster frenzy and you can't be sure. You know that people had credible sightings and things are going on, and then, then you have to question, well, what are other people doing either to add to it or, then it becomes hard to separate, especially when something is so fast and furious and the media is coming around. So, there's just no way to tell if that's the creature's track or something else, because we don't have a creature still to compare that to, I guess.
Right.
The answer.
Now, the Ford sighting that happened, was that the one that really kicked it off? Was that what really started it going?
Yeah, those incidents, which occurred starting in late April and early May of 1971, are the first things that made the newspaper coverage. Now, there had been sightings dating further back, and there was a good rash of sightings back in the mid-'60s down in the areas southwest of Fouke near the Sulphur River, but those had never been publicized. But in the Ford incident, in which a couple of families moved to Fouke and rented a little house, something began creeping around on the porch at night, and they got glimpses of it, and it stuck its hand in the window, and they saw something running out from the house that was running upright and was covered in hair. And that continued on several days until Bobby Ford was actually attacked when he was going back up to the house when the girls were screaming. He ended up tussling with whatever this thing was and nearly jumping through the front door, and he was taken to the Texarkana hospital. So, of course, when they take this dude in there, and they say, what happened? Well, we're down in Fouke, and this big, upright, hairy thing attacked him. you know, you can't contain that. And suddenly some of the news found out. They came the next day. There were people swarming around the Ford house, and that made the newspaper. And then, yeah, it just went from there.
Yeah, I know after that, everybody started seeing it more often, or at least it was reported more often, it seemed like. And I mean, like you said, it was just a big media frenzy after that.
Yeah, I know. There's like native legends, you know, all over the place of creatures like this. But is there any tied to Falk or that area that you know of?
Yeah, some of this area and where Falk is, very southern Arkansas, very close to Texas and Louisiana, and that area which kind of goes southward down through Caddo Lake, which spans across Texas and Louisiana. All this is just kind of a triangle, which I call the Caddo Triangle of Bigfoot activity. That was once inhabited by the Caddo Indians. And in their stories and legends, they told of what they called, you know, a hairy giant or lost giants. And, you know, that we could venture to say could have been their description of Bigfoot, you know, a forest person,
right,
or something like that. So, yeah, certainly you can kind of trace that back. And then as you go forward, in the 1800s, there are several kind of well-known and famous newspaper articles which describe Bigfoot-like creatures in the Arkansas area and even in that Caddo Triangle area that, you know, kind of carry it on. And then once you get up to I've got sighting reports from as early as 1908 here, and specifically in Falk, and then onward, you know, as I've really researched and talked to more and more families and gotten stories and reports. So, yeah, definitely a long history here.
Yeah, I know a lot of, you know, there's a lot of native history as far as, you know, these creatures and stuff, and all in the South down here. You know, the Cherokee have their legends, and you know, so do a lot of the other indigenous people. So, you know, you'd figure that if they were still a viable creature, that they would still meet those same criteria and standards that they talked about, you know, back then.
Right. I mean, I always say for these things to exist, they must have existed all along, and therefore, you know, it's not something that popped up just in modern times. The Native Americans, the early settlers, everybody would have had to have had interactions or sightings of these creatures, and from what we can tell, it seems to be the case.
Right. So, what happened that has gotten you to go back to Falk? Another rash of sightings, or is it just one? Or
as far as today, or just in general?
Yeah, today, right now.
So today, I got a call earlier this week from a historian that has a little museum here in Miller County, which is where Falk is located. And he said he had talked to a woman who had recorded a very interesting vocalization, which she said, you know, could be a Bigfoot. And she had had a lot of things going on. She's been growled at in the woods, and sightings by people around. Though she hadn't seen the thing, she believed the creatures may be around. And when I heard the howl, I thought, yeah, this sounds good. Because usually what happens is somebody reports, if they want to go somewhere around here, they'll report it to the police or the mayor or somewhere. And eventually they refer them to me. And so it kind of worked out. So I came up here and I visited with the woman earlier and took a look at the location, and listened to the recording she had and walked the area. And it's certainly an excellent area where there have been other sightings, which kind of corroborate what this woman's saying. Because usually, if it's just one isolated thing, you're like, I don't know. But this woman isn't aware of all the other stuff I'm knowledgeable about, having investigated these reports here for so long, that I'm like, wow, she is in the heart and the zone of where I think these creatures have retreated as things have kind of gotten built up. This is an area south of Falk that is still very heavily wooded. It's where the lower part of what's called Mercer Bayou, which is a very swampy area. Right where I'm sitting, I can see the bayou from here as the sun goes down, by the way. And it converges with the Sulphur River, of which Sulphur River has a long history of sightings. So it was kind of exciting, and I think the woman definitely is on to something, and we'll probably come back up here and maybe put some cameras out there and see if we can get something, get a picture or something. I mean, what can you do? We did take a good 2-hour hike up and down a pipeline clearing where we were looking for tracks or anything we could find. We didn't see anything in particular, but so that there always seems to be something going on like that. And earlier when we came down here to scope out where we were going to camp, which I've been to many times, we were looking at this place across the Bayou Channel, and I saw something unusual caught my eye, which I first thought to be something dark walking about 100 yards away between some trees, and then I saw it a second time, and then I saw something reddish, which definitely stood out and walked in a very fluid type, and I want to say walked, it moved somehow in a fluid manner, about 120 yards, which I was kind of surprised. I can't say that, I saw a creature or anything, but it was very unusual. And oddly enough, like I say, what I saw was kind of a dark reddish shade, and I've heard people report, say, creatures are reddish. We recently had a sighting about a few months ago in which a guy said he saw an ape-like creature run across the road, and he said it was like an orangutan, which is orangish reddish. Right. So I don't know. It's odd. Usually they're reported as dark brown, dark black.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been an interesting day for sure.
That's fantastic. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Continue this conversation where we left off. And I definitely have some questions. I know Jason's got some questions. I know people in the chat room has questions. I know Lee's got questions. I see him over there. He's bubbling. So, we'll be back here in just a minute. We are talking with Lyle Blackburn, and we're talking right now about his book of The Beast of Boggy Creek, but we're actually talking because he's on location right now in Falk, Arkansas.
Doing a little investigating.
Yeah.
That's what I like about his books is he actually goes there and he writes down, his story.
What he's doing.
Yeah.
Remember, we are simulcasting live on Spreaker and on Podbean. So, but if you feel inclined, come over to projectdarkcorona.org and come into the live Area 51 chat room. And we'll be back right after these messages.
You're listening to Project Dark Corona.
Hey, this is Jeff Reagan with the band Catalyst. You're listening to Project Dark Corona.
Welcome and thanks for listening to Project Dark Corona on Podbean. If you like our show and would like to support it, you can by becoming a patron. just click on the box that says Become a Patron and sign up. We have different options that you can choose from to support us. Some of the perks becoming a patron include bonus content, free gifts, and the feeling of being part of the show. So thanks, and continue listening to Project Dark Corona.
Thanks for listening to Project Dark Corona. You can find us on Facebook at Project Dark Corona Podcast. All of our shows are posted in the events section. You can also find us on Twitter at Project Dark Coro. We have a webpage at projectdarkcorona.org. You can sign up and become a member. You can post blogs and listen to past shows. So remember and listen to Project Dark Corona Podcast.
Hey everybody, this is Matt Sieber. I'm stuck in a bunker with David and Jason on Project Dark Corona.
A crow flies a western sky, the twitching of a nervous eye, the clicking of a chambered round. Another body hits the ground. Rider on a desert plain, a killer on a southbound train, dancing on the setting sun. Another hero bites the dust, a coffin full of dollars. Don't a rich man make when you're blind and lifeless? Make no mistake, when it's all said and done, who's lost or won? Take me, get all alive, and laughing, worth the price. Take me, get all alive, bullets don't argue, you lay down your life. Oh yeah. A lonely howl in the night, a shadow in the firelight, the echo of a dead man's tune, a god that spells certain doom. Take me, get all alive, and laughing, worth the price. Take me, get all alive, bullets don't argue, you lay down your life. A shot of whiskey in a jar, vendettas that have gone too far. Another dollar to be made, another bounty to be paid. Coffin full of dollars, don't a rich man make when you're blind and lifeless. Make no mistake.
All right. Go back off that break. And that was Ghoultown. Yeah.
That's Mr. Blackburn's band.
Yeah.
That's him singing.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is. It is. That's Bullets Don't Argue is the name of that song.
So who was that in the chat room that commented on that guitar?
That was
Catfish.
Catfish. Yep, Catfish says sweet riff. So we'll bring Lyle back on. Hey, Lyle.
Hey there.
Not just an investigator, not just an author, but musician.
Yes, musician too.
So
That's right.
you was a musician before you was anything, right?
Yeah, yes, I've been in bands, various bands, and since I started, when I was 16, but I, signed on labels when I was in my early 20s and, toured Europe and Canada and U.S. and a lot of places, throughout my life. So,
Wow. That's fantastic.
It is.
Yeah, that's cool.
so Ghoultown is a band I started literally, how long has it been? In 1999. And, I did that as an independent label kind of a thing, and just to do something different, unique, and something kind of that encompasses my Texan roots. And the band, has done well, and that's pretty much what I was doing, before I started writing the books, and so forth. But I remember I used to ride around the tour bus, and I was always reading Bigfoot books and stuff. And they're like, "What are you reading?" And then one time I found a DVD of Legend of Boggy Creek in a truck stop, and I was watching it at the time on a laptop that would play movies, and I would just watch it over and over, and they thought I was nuts. I was like, "Man, I haven't seen this since I saw it in the drive-in when I was a kid," and so, I was just always into that stuff. But yeah, music is what I had writing gigs. I wrote for horror magazines. I wrote for music magazines. So I did writing gigs as well, kind of in between, music and touring and all that stuff.
You've actually have a degree, do you not?
Yes, I actually do have a degree in English.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So then that makes the writing a lot easier, doesn't it?
Right. It was something I was always good at, and as I was in those early bands before I got signed, in between that and high school, I went to college, and I thought, well, the only thing I can do is use English. I can get out because I'm a good writer, and I did that. My mom's like, "What are you going to do with that degree?" And it's like, "I don't know, but I'm just going to get what I can." And of course, later, "Look, Mom, I wrote a book about Boggy Creek." She's like, "Oh, great."
Who's going to read that? She was thinking, I bet,
Oh yeah, they probably thought it was nuts, and then it did. I mean, it was the fastest selling book in the history of that publisher. I'm like, "See, Mom."
Wow.
Yeah, and then later she's watching you on TV too.
Yeah,
That's my son right there.
And of course, then they are like, "Yeah, oh, my son's on TV. Check this out. He's an author." and then they're playing it up. But yeah, they were skeptical, I would say, as most parents would be,
Right.
Early on. So.
That's funny. So, do you believe, like a lot of people believe that these Bigfoot travel, they migrate from one place to another, or do you think that they have certain areas that they live in and they just kind of stake down and are always in that, however big of an area that is?
Well, I mean, if I had to take a guess, I would say that they don't migrate per se. I mean, moving from, great distances, like migrating from Texas to Florida or something. But I think they do move in a wide range because, other apex predators, cougars and bear, they move, in a lot of square miles because they're bigger. They go where they can find sustenance and what they need to survive. So I think they do move. So in other words, people see something in Falk and call it the Falk Monster, and then something seen, 30 miles away in near Caddo Lake and call it the Caddo creature. It could very well be the same creature because this general area is where they would move. So I think they're regional and in a territory, but not necessarily a big group migrating around,
Right. I always kind of thought that, to hear a lot of the native legends and stuff, I always thought that maybe they kind of moved like the natives did, with the herds or with, the food sources. So wintertime, you move closer to a different food source, and, summer times and stuff. And I kind of figured that they did something kind of like that.
And that's a good point. I mean, and actually, at some time back, that could have very well been what they did, and one reason they've kind of spread around. But I think, of course, as we've come in here and built things up and built so many highways and roads and cities, that perhaps they kind of had to then adapt to hunkering down and staying a little bit more, under the radar, because they just, wouldn't have the freedom like they did back in those times to just sort of move in a straight line wherever they wanted to go, because they're not going to run across roads and cities. So, that very well could be. I mean, not to say they still couldn't do that. They would just have to move carefully through riverways and things like that. But.
Okay, and that kind of comes down to the next question that I had, because I know a lot of people on the in that area and that has done a lot of studies on it believe that they use the waterways or the the creeks and different things like that as their kind of roadways to move from one place to another.
Yeah, that's definite, because if you kind of overlay sighting locations with a terrain map, you're going to find clusters around, swampy areas, around creeks, around rivers, bayous. I mean, and that only makes sense, especially in the South, where it's very hot. You need to be near water sources. These are also places where other animals congregate. You've got fish, you've got other food sources, and also, creeks and riverways. They cut under our roads, and if they want to move, that's sort of a little highway or tunnel that they can move and be virtually, undetected, rather than just generally running across roads and other things. And and just taking the Boggy Creek area as a case study, most of the sightings are all right in here along the waterways.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense of where you're at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, even in the Legend of Boggy Creek movie, one of the things that was a theme, the narrator would say, he always follows the creeks. And so, we're certainly not the only ones to make that observation. I mean, this is going back to, when they made the movie in 1971, that they were observant that the things tended to be seen along Boggy Creek, or the houses or the homes, steads that were along that particular creek. So it was definitely seemed to be moving up and down the waterway.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, I had a what I feel was a sighting. It was a truck driver sighting, but now mine was in Washington. Me and the wife, we team drive, and so I do all the nighttime driving, and we were heading towards Washington State, and was up on 90, and it was, I don't know, 11 o'clock at night or so, and it was sparse. There was hardly any cars on the road or anything, and I've actually got it written down somewhere, the actual time, the actual yard marker sign. I mean, I've got it all written down somewhere, but it was one of those nights where it's just barely foggy. You know, like your lights can shine maybe 4 or 5 car lengths away, and then it kind of starts getting to where you don't see too much, you know. And it wasn't a really heavy fog. And so I'm just driving along. Then all of a sudden, literally like right at where your lights, you know, start to hit the thicker part of it, where you're into the fog. This huge creature, it was definitely bipedal, came out of the median and took 2 steps across the road and hit the other side of the road and was gone before I even got to him. You know, and I'm driving 70 miles an hour down the road. And this thing was big enough that if I was able to pull up next to him and say, hey, he could have looked straight in my window and I could roll it down. I mean, it was big, whatever it was. And that's the only kind of sighting I've ever had as a truck driver. I was hoping I had a lot more, but especially, you know, going to these different areas that we go to, but you know, it's still pretty neat though.
Yeah, that's amazing. And, you know, sometimes it is just a matter of luck and timing, and because just like you described, it's so quick, so fleeting. Like suddenly he's like, why can't you get a picture? It's like, dude, it's gone in 1 to 2 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, you can't pull your phone up because you're not expecting.
You know, I was in so much awe too. It was like the size of the thing. I was just like, you know, this thing's huge. And then, like you said, how fast it is. I mean, you wouldn't think something that big would be that fast, you know, and I was just, I don't know. I was flabbergasted for a little bit, and then I had to get my bearings and start writing stuff down.
Right.
But yeah, that was the one sighting I had.
So
yeah,
go
that's
ahead.
good. I've had a few. I was going to say I've had a few truck drivers actually give me a few reports. So yeah, you're on the road, you see stuff, you know.
Yeah, we definitely drive the areas that it you know, it's been able to be seen, because we're in Washington all the time. Like this next week, we'll be going into Canada, so we'll be up in Canada all week next week. So we'll be going across the Canadian Rockies next week.
I think the only difference is now you have that dash cam, right?
Oh, we do have a dash camera now.
So now you can go back in history.
Yes.
If you do sit again.
Yeah. I made sure to get the dash cam. That's for sure.
So have they has anybody got any pictures of at Falk of the monster or the Bigfoot, whatever? Do you have any?
I've never seen any that were convincing. Now, I have seen a few, but they didn't look. One of them, I was pretty sure it was a person. It definitely looked like a Bigfoot, but I could tell it would look like they were wearing a vest. So that was about the best one. The other ones have been just, shadows and this and that, where people circle and say something's right there, but I'm not saying that there wasn't, but they were not convincing or anything that would be considered, intriguing or proof to somebody who doesn't, who's on the fence about it. So I've never seen any really good photos.
So the best evidence that they've got is the people's witness tales, and then the castings that they've had.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty much, just the anecdotal reports that have added up over the years, and then some tracks, and really, I can't say I've even seen any hair samples that have come out of right here in Falk that people have proposed. So it's very sparse, the evidence, but even today we're walking down there, and it's, you would think, we'd find some tracks if these things were coming around this lady's house. But even though it's been rainy, it's very hard to register some tracks because there's so much leaf litter, there's so many pine needles, there's so much rocky and hard areas that it would just literally have to step right in the right place where there's some mud or something to leave a track.
Some And some people have said that they think that these things are pretty well able to hide their tracks if they want to, because sometimes there's just places that they know that they've been, but they've never been able to find tracks that they think that they can hide them if they want to.
Right, and I mean, you certainly have to try to make some speculation based on the data, and the data is that we do have credible people, that have reported these sightings and things that have occurred. Yet, why don't we find as many tracks? So you just have to presume that perhaps they are wary of leaving tracks, or they cover them up, or they walk in places where they're not going to leave them, and that's certainly possible. You figure logically they got to be more intelligent than your average animal in order to have evaded, proof or capture all this time. So
right.
If they're intelligent, then they certainly could attempt not to leave tracks.
So that just kind of opened up a question that I've kind of had with intelligence. So where are you at on that? I know some people just think, branch of Gigantopithecus, or, different things like that, all the way up to, really, really intelligent beings. Where do you kind of fall in that?
Well, again, I kind of just go from what I can, within reason, from what I can project out of the interviews I've done and so forth, without having ever observed one at length or anything. It's just hard to say how highly intelligent. But again, I think they have to be somewhat more intelligent than, just your average animal of the forest, so to speak, just simply because if they do exist, they've managed to stay hidden. And that would require, that's more than just luck. That would have to require some level or measure of calculated intelligence. So, how much more intelligent, I couldn't say. They don't, we don't find elaborate tools that they've left in the woods. We don't find them, they're not building houses out here or anything like that. So, I mean,
no log cabins.
Yeah, I mean, if it came up like, oh my God, they built a log cabin, like, this guy's smart, So,
Well, we do get a question from the chat room from Cherry. She asked, have you heard of anyone claiming to have found a dead one?
Yes, I've heard a few stories, claims. There was even in this specific area, allegedly a guy who was working on building one of the roads in here 20 some odd years ago came across a carcass of something, and he wasn't sure what it was, and it spooked him and he took off. But again, he didn't pick up any remnants of the carcass. And then Smoky Crabtree, who was prominent in the legend of Boggy Creek and who was preceded me basically as the guy looking into these Boggy Creek reports, got a hold of a skeleton which was missing the head, and it was thought for many years that could have been the carcass of one of these creatures. But I think I've discerned that was not, that it was some kind of feline and not an ape. But it's big and it's huge and it's weird looking and it's pretty creepy when you see it. So that was alleged to be a dead one. And then, by and large, you've got a lot of reports of people saying they shot at it or something like that, and it just wasn't very phased. So it doesn't appear that they're easy to bring down, even if you did try to shoot at it.
It's odd that you said feline, because don't like cougars have 3-toed tracks or something? So if this was a big, huge cat, I don't know. It may, I don't know, it just sort of It's a little different than the Bigfoot, but I was just trying to figure out something that has 3 toes,
Right. Well, that's the strange thing you see. There's a whole chapter in my Beast of Boggy Creek book which I talk about this skeleton. And when you see it, the way it is missing part of the claws, when you look at that, it almost looks like it has 3 digits. And if it were to lay flat as a foot and not be bent in the way that a felid feet are constructed, when you see it, you're like, that looks like a felt monster foot. Almost looks like the tracks. And then the way the thing was so huge, the only thing that gives it away, which I could tell immediately, was it had a very narrow hip structure, which is indicative of quadruped, especially a felid. And then I researched into that and actually located a sheriff in Texas that had found or had examined that carcass in the woods before it got in the hands of Smokey. But, which, again, I mean, I didn't DNA the thing, but I'm pretty positive of what it is. But it's a really bizarre and intriguing story, and one that fits into the whole legend of Boggy Creek, if you will.
And it's something that isn't supposed to be in the area right now anyway, right? Even if it was a cat of some sort, right?
Well, yeah, the creature, I mean, it's still reported, but,
Right.
but and it wasn't an indigenous feline to here. There are cougars, and there are quite a few up here nowadays, but this was bigger than that.
Wow. Sherry asked another pretty good question in the chat room. She's asking if they if you think that they have a effective way of burying their dead, and that's why why we don't find them.
Yeah, I would speculate to say possibly, and that kind of goes hand in hand with that discussion about the intelligence, that in order for them to remain elusive like this, they would have to be somewhat conscious about, not allowing members of their species just to, fall over and die in the middle of the road. I mean, or just be conscious of if they, I guess, if their time has expired, to get off into the most remotest part of the woods, because, that otherwise we would probably find a carcass at some point. Although, I mean, there's bears that's been reported down here. I've never run across a dead bear here. I've never seen a bear, and I know many hunters that have hunted here all their life, and they've seen a few bear tracks, but never actually seen a bear. So bears live here, and their carcasses cannot be found, and so could Bigfoot.
Yeah, I've seen some people, that have done some studies on that, and they've taken like a deer carcass and they've tied it down. So then that way, and they filmed it and they tied it down. So then, animals just couldn't carry it off and stuff. But, within 6 and 7 days, there wasn't anything really recognizably left of that thing after all the bugs got to it and the scavenging animals got to it. I mean, it was gone. So I would just think that in people were expecting that if something's dead that it's just lays around forever. But there's a lot of cleaning animals in this world that things don't last long out there.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, it's just the way nature is. It's going to consume that back into the earth, and that, I think that was a Monster Quest episode or whatever, where they tied that deer down. And
Yep, that's it.
Time lapse that thing, and you're just like, wow, it just kind of disappeared. And that's the thing. It's like if something died up here, you'd have to find it pretty soon, because otherwise, it's going to be scattered, and you're not going to see it.
Right. And that's what gets me too, is like, here in East Tennessee, this whole area right here, we've got the Smoky Mountains and the Great Smoky Mountain National Park, thousands and thousands upon thousands of other acres. And there's national park after national park that's just all one huge big area. And I would say probably over 60% of that thing, people don't hardly ever set foot in. I mean, it's just dense, you know. I mean, here in East Tennessee, you know, this area is is considered a what is it called? A temperate rainforest for the amount of rain and stuff that we get. And I mean, you know, there's huge sections of that thing that no one even probably hasn't set foot on for years. I mean, there could be anything living out there.
Right. Yeah. There's just so much land, and you know that kind of answers the question for skeptics that, you know, people are like, oh, you know, these things couldn't exist. How would we not see them? You know, well, just drop, you know, say, okay, we're going to drop you out there in the middle of the Smoky Mountains. You
Yeah.
tell me that there's no place to hide, because there's millions of places.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of people don't have this perspective. Even here, I mean, we're not in a mountain range, but, you know, it's so thick and grown up, you can't see 10 feet into the woods. There could be 20 of them out there looking at me right now, laughing because I'm on a radio show. You know?
Talking about them.
Yeah, you know, and I couldn't see them and that's just in my zone of 100 yards here, times every other acre out in that swamp. So yeah, there's a lot of places for these things to be.
Now, I was told by a good friend of the show, and he's a Bigfoot hunter here in Tennessee. That name's Matt Sieber. I'm sure you've seen him he's at the Bigfoot conference quite a bit and stuff, but he said something while he was on the show one time that really kind of got me, and he's like, you know, a lot of people are looking down on the ground all the time for footprints. He goes, but what if they may be hiding out up in trees? He goes, you may be walking under a ton of them and just not know it because you're looking for footprints, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, that's true.
Yeah. Which increases the area that they can hide, because if you count all the trees and that foliage and upwards, yeah, I mean, they could very well be. And I mean, we had just been talking about that coincidentally today, about how perhaps some of the juveniles would be more apt to climb trees and would use that as quick ways to hide or be out of sight, you know, that sort of thing. So,
Yeah.
you know, I did get a report once from a hunter who, this guy wasn't, you know, he wasn't a Bigfoot researcher. He just said, one time I was in this area down this old county road, and he saw some kind of ape-like thing run up in a tree. He said it was an ape. It wasn't a bear or, you know, anything else. It was some kind of ape. He kind of freaked him out. He didn't, you know, just kind of left, but said, I don't know, it was an ape, and I saw it get up in the tree.
That's crazy.
Strange.
Now, I do have a question that I've wondered a couple of times before. You know, you've got a really bad problem in Florida right now with all those people who had let all those big snakes and stuff go, and they're you know, having a field day because, you know, they're becoming pretty much the apex predator there. Is there a possibility that something like that, like a few big apes or something, got out of a circus somewhere or something, and they've been procreating somewhere, and then people are seeing sightings of that mixed in with what could be, you know, and that's where you get these people that are so, you know, straight up that that was an ape, was an ape, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I fully think that there's a good possibility that some of these sightings are actual, you know, great apes, primates that are known, because, you know, I've heard some reports where they describe them very much like, seem like a chimpanzee, or, you know, even smaller ones that were monkeys, you know, that they were certain about. There was even one in Arkansas some years ago where the guy had seen a group of monkeys, and he told a bunch of guys at a bar. He's like, "Dude, I was hunting and there was monkeys," and they all laughed. There's no monkeys up here. You're crazy out of your mind. This guy was pissed. He went back out there and to where that hunting area, and he finally shot one of them. He brought it into town in the back of his truck, and it was in the newspaper and everything. I had the article right there. He shot that thing,
Wow.
and certainly, I mean, who knows? Even an orangutan. I mean, I had this guy say what he saw. He goes, "I think it was an orangutan," and then I saw something reddish today. I mean, so yeah, certainly that could kind of confuse the matter. Where we've got reports of known primates mixed in with, something that is definitely different, that is more upright, that is much taller, which is Bigfoot.
Right. And much heavier too. I mean, you're talking, they're talking some of these big guys, 700-800 pounds or so. I mean, and really what gets me is when you have, them talking about they're able to read the dermal ridges on some of these things now too and stuff. And when you get into the science of that, I mean, that's just, you can't fake that.
Right. I mean, if those are ruled out as artifacts created by the casting, and we do have dermal ridges, like in the Elkins Creek cast from Georgia back in the 90s, those are good pieces of evidence, things to examine, and certainly things that, kind of fuel our fire. It's like, hey, it's not just sightings. Look at this print and look at the possibility of dermal ridges. That goes to show that there is evidence out there that your average person wouldn't know about.
Right. And that's something that what's his name? Dr. Meldrum, isn't it? Isn't that what he pretty much does is those kinds of things, is looks at that kind of evidence?
Yeah, that's his specialty and his thing. I mean, he's a professor of locomotion and foot anatomy, and the locomotion and as it relates to biology and living creatures is a highly important thing. How they get around, how's the movement, how's the different structures of foot. So, being that he's interested in Bigfoot, that's kind of his specialty, is finding the tracks, and it's also something that's visible. You can examine, you can hold it. So he's got the biggest track collection, that he's gotten, and he has the track collection from Grover Krantz, who had preceded him as a specialist in collecting the tracks. And so, yeah, he's the one that usually, if you've got a good tracks, sooner or later, it's going to go to Meldrum for him to examine.
Wow. I know Cliff has a Bigfoot museum, and he has quite a few tracks and stuff, doesn't he not? Up there?
Yeah. He's very much into the tracks as well. So, he's amassed a good collection, and certainly something that, is really, it's North American Bigfoot Center, that new museum he's got going, which is really cool. Got a good collection of casts that you can look at there.
Yeah, I want to go visit that place one of these days, because that's pretty amazing. I listen to his and Bobo's podcast all the time. It's fantastic. It's good. I mean, if you're into this kind of thing, that's mainly what they talk about. So, but yeah. So
have you seen Lyle's monster office? The pictures?
No.
He's got it's awesome. I seen a picture of it today. I like that.
You have a monster office.
Yeah, I've actually got a video of it on my YouTube channel.
That's where I
even
seen
on on LyleBlackburn.com, the videos section. But yeah, I mean, it's my home office, and it's just got a bunch of everything from movie monsters and movie posters and collectibles. Of course, there's Bigfoot tracks and Boggy Creek section and all that stuff. So that's where when I'm at home, that's the home office there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you just don't investigate just strictly Bigfoot. I know the Lizard Man. That's a pretty good story.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been interested in all of the various cryptids that have been reported, or I mean, I would say paranormal phenomenon in some regards, but I'm definitely more of the monster guy. I love stories of legends of people reporting living dinosaurs and lake monsters and reptilian humanoid looking things. And so once I did the Beast of Boggy Creek, I then followed that up with my book Lizard Man, which is the story about the Bishopville, South Carolina sightings of the late 80s, in which people reported seeing a upright reptilian sort of basically a creature from the Black Lagoon type of a phenomenon going on there. I always thought that was a cool story. So I went out there to Bishopville and checked into the whole thing and wrote up the book on the whole history of that.
Yeah, I saw you. I don't know if it was on the Travel Channel or whichever one it was, but they was talking about that, and you was on there, and the story about the Christopher Davis, that 17-year-old that I think he was the one that had the tire that blew out, and after he got finished, it chased him, and he jumped in his car and took off, and it jumped on top of his car. That was pretty fantastic.
Yeah. Christopher Davis's incident. It's sort of like the Ford incident of Falk. It's like that's the one that sort of kicked it off, and once that got in the newspaper, then that kind of kicked off that whole phenomenon of other people coming forward saying, I saw something like that here recently or a couple of years ago, and that's when it all that sort of started coming together. And Christopher Davis's incident is certainly one of the most. It ranks right up there as one of the most spookiest, scariest cryptid encounters that has ever been reported.
Yeah, I know the damages and stuff that was done to people's cars and all that stuff. I mean, that's just crazy. That's a lot of damage to be able to be done. Luckily, I guess anybody's lucky they never got caught by it, but there's always one step ahead and was able to jump in a car or something, because if he could do that to metal, then a person wouldn't survive.
Oh, yeah. I mean, presumably any of these, cryptids and got a hold of you, that'd be all she wrote. So, yeah, I mean, there was all that weird car damage and all that stuff that was associated with the Lizard Man case, and people theorizing that, this thing was sort of on a rampage. So, who knows? I mean, there's missing persons reports from South Carolina. Who knows that, who's to say that they didn't go too close to Skateboard Swamp and never be seen again? I don't know.
That's a fact.
You get captured by a slee stack.
Slee stack.
Yeah.
Remember those? Remember the slee stacks?
Absolutely. And Land of the Lost.
Oh,
I mean, that's part of the stuff that somehow fueled me as a kid. And I actually met Kathy Coleman, who played Holly in Land of the Lost a couple of years ago in Florida. We were at a restaurant, and I came out, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was like, I was in love with you when I was a kid, and stuff. And she was super cool, and I met some of the other cast members, and I love all that stuff. And so,
watch that every Saturday morning. They'd come on. That was a pretty cool show.
So if somebody would have told me I would grow up to, research quote unquote monster cases or, slee stacks, Bigfoots, and whatever, I would have, I would have said, wow, that would be amazing. I mean, my mom would have said, no, you're not. But
you're going to get a real job.
Yeah. I think they're still telling me to get a real job, but I mean, I just don't. I don't see the need for that. I'm doing just fine.
Right.
Yeah, I bet she's proud of you.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, they are.
So we're going to take a quick break. give Lyle a little bit of rest before we get into the last part.
Yeah, I know you got a question that you've been biting your nails to ask. So,
Yeah, but I'm scared to.
You want me to ask it for you?
No, I'll ask him.
Oh, okay. Because it's one of those questions. It's not, anything about you. It's about Bigfoot. So it's getting into the stuff. So, but we're going to go take us a quick break, and we're talking with Lyle Blackburn, and we're also simulcasting live on Spreaker and Podbean. But hey, come over to projectdarkcorona.org into the live Area 51 chat room and chat with us there. And also, when you come on to projectdarkcorona.org, you see a little thing that says Paranormal Malady Radio. Click on that and vote for us. Last month we got number 9 out of 25, and we're trying for number 1.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's just the top 25. There's hundreds
Yes.
of podcasts on there.
Hundreds of podcasts.
Hundreds of
yeah,
them,
and we made 9 out of the top 25.
Yeah.
So we're trying to move on up. So we'll see you after these messages.
You're listening to Project Dark Corona.
Hey, everybody. This is Matt Sieber from EastTennesseeBigfoot.org. You're listening to David and Jason at Project Dark Corona Radio.
Thanks for listening to Project Dark Corona. You can find us on Facebook at Project Dark Corona Podcast. All of our shows are posted in the events section. You can also find us on Twitter at Project Dark Coro. We have a webpage at projectdarkcorona.org. You can sign up and become a member. You can post blogs and listen to past shows. So remember and listen to Project Dark Corona Podcast.
Welcome, and thanks for listening to Project Dark Corona on Podbean. If you like our show and would like to support it, you can by becoming a patron. Just click on the box that says Become a Patron and sign up. We have different options that you can choose from to support us. Some of the perks becoming a patron include bonus content, free gifts, and the feeling of being part of the show. So thanks, and continue listening to Project Dark Corona.
Hey, this is Jeff Reagan with the band Catalyst. You're listening to Project Dark Corona with David Reagan and Jason Scott.
All right, we're back from that quick break.
Yeah, that's a little bit of Sasquatch paparazzi by who?
Mississippi Bones.
Mississippi Bones, and they're nice enough to let us play their music, and so we do.
And Catalyst, he lets us play their music too. They got some great songs. You can find them on BandLab.
Yes, and along with Lyle Blackburn's band too. It's on BandLab.
Is it? Yeah.
Yes, sure is. That right, Lyle?
We're pretty much wherever finer music is sold. Yes.
That's where I bought your album today. Anyway, was off of BandLab. So
Okay. Yeah.
yep, it was easy. You just go in, and you've got so much on there though. How many albums do you have out?
I think it's up to 9.
Okay.
I mean, some of them are, there's EPs and singles and so forth. So I think it's 9 total.
Yeah.
So are you still doing the music thing?
Yeah, we don't tour like we used to, but we still record albums ever so often. The song Bullets Don't Argue that you played earlier is from our album we recorded last year. So yeah, that's fairly recent.
Yeah, I listened to the great thing about BandLabs is that it allows you to listen to every song that you have, and then you could, buy it by the song or buy it by the album. And I literally listened to every song of yours starting at I think it was like 12:30 this afternoon, and I was listening all the way up, and then I was just like, I'm just going to ask him what he thinks is the best thing for me to play for this show.
We know
because I'm
what
like,
you
there's
did.
There's a lot of shows.
You made a mixtape, didn't you?
Yeah.
You're going to pop that in tonight, ain't you?
That's it.
Yeah, that is a lot. I mean, and when I listen to it, I mean, some of that, because the band has been around so long that, some of that stuff, wrote 20 years ago, and it's like, wow, and it spans a long period of time. And,
Yeah.
it's a lot of my life right there.
You should have played his first song that he ever recorded.
That may not be on there. I don't know. I know his first album's on there for sure, but
So
it probably is, because all that stuff gets put through by our distributor, and all of our tunes in one way or another are, available. So I'm sure they have it all on there.
Well, I know you had one of my crushes in one of your videos, Cassandra Peterson, better known as Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. I sort of enjoyed that one.
that was a good video too.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the high points of anything I've done, working with Elvira and writing a song, and we went to Hollywood to do that.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
We went to Hollywood to shoot that video.
Yeah.
wow.
And I think the car of hers, if you watch the Counting Cars show, he redid her car a couple years ago that was in that video and stuff.
Oh, right.
Yeah. We got another question from Sherry. She's full of questions. She was, and this is from her neck of the woods. She's from West Virginia. And have you... Yeah, I could answer this question, but I'll sort of word it a different way. Yeah, you did. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's
okay.
right.
She's talking about Mothman, of course, like I said, that's part of her neck of the woods in West Virginia.
She actually came on the show and talked about Mothman.
Yeah. And I think you did a documentary on Mothman with, was it Small Town Monsters?
Right. Yeah, we've done two documentaries that cover the Mothman case. The Mothman of Point Pleasant, which covers just kind of the 13 months of the original sightings, and then the Mothman Legacy, in which we talk about the expanded history of sighting of flying humanoids in that area. But I've been up there to Point Pleasant about 3 or 4 times, and I've been out to the TNT area and, talked to many people who have some level of involvement in that case. So it's certainly one of my favorite cryptid cases, and well beyond cryptids, because you have all the other phenomena. So it's certainly a cool case.
Yeah.
You're going to that Mothman Festival too this year, right?
Right. Yeah, I'm going to be a guest speaker up there at the festival in September. So I'm always enjoy going up there and going to the festival. It's one of the best. So it's going to be cool.
Okay, Sherry, there's your chance to meet him.
Yeah.
Take a picture with him. You can go see him.
That's right, live in person.
Yeah, last night my daughter, I think she had got a crush on you after I showed her who you was. She's 7.
See?
Yeah.
Influencing the next generation of investigators there.
That's right. Well, that's good. I feel like if I can inspire some young people to get out and explore nature and explore the mysteries of the world, then I've done good.
Yeah.
So, here's a question I've been, I'm David will put the button in. I know as far as Bigfoot, I'm just going to say as far as Bigfoot goes, because some of these other cryptids, there's no doubt something else is going on. Do you think it has some kind of paranormal properties? I know some people like that. Some people are saying, no, it's strictly an ape or a monkey.
Right. Well, I certainly don't have all the answers. I can, my opinion, is I still kind of operate under the ground level theory that we're looking for some undocumented ape species, biological, terrestrial, flesh and blood. I don't think it necessarily has to have paranormal properties, because just like we've been talking about, there's such a huge place to exist. Animals can do amazing things. I mean, we have a lot of animals on this earth that are not paranormal in any way, that are just miraculous. I mean, octopus, their designs are designed so, amazing for keeping them hidden. I mean, the stripes on a tiger are not just for decoration. Those are strategic for their survival and remaining hidden, and the way they move the grass, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so,
that makes
I think we can underestimate what the hair coloration and shading. I mean, the various colors of shading on different creatures help them blend in. So people say, it just disappeared. It just faded. No, man, those things can just turn and disappear into the woods, and you can't see them, because, that's what they're designed to do. So,
yeah,
but I certainly understand all the other theories, because we have to now explain why we can't prove this after 50 years of extensive research, started by Roger Patterson, or even going back further. How is it we haven't got the proof? And that invites other, more radical theories. So I get it as to why, we have these other explanations, but, I don't know that any one thing is better than the other, or, and I certainly don't have any proof to say that my viewpoint's the right one. I just say, hey, cool, man, it's all fun, and let's all, enjoy Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking to someone about something like that. There's over 300 acres of nothing but woods behind the house here. And literally 10 foot from the back of the house is the wood line starts. And we have deer and stuff that just come here all the time. And I walked outside one time, and there was about 5 or 6 of them sitting here, and they just ran up and just barely even ran into the woods. I mean, again, from where I was standing, the woods was maybe 20 foot, from where I was standing at the time. And the second they hit that tree line, they move in a way and stop to where they just blend in, and you literally have to sit there. And these things aren't, by this time, maybe 30, 40 foot away from you. And the only way you could see them is them sitting there flicking that tail.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing you could see. But if they wouldn't flick that tail, you wouldn't see them at all. And so you would think that something like Bigfoot or something would have, like you said, the ability to blend in a way to where they could just disappear like that.
Yeah, precisely. That's the exact example of an animal's ability. So if we presume that they are even smarter and are consciously trying to avoid us, then they could certainly do that and much more, to where we are at a complete disadvantage when we are in the woods. And, they can smell us a mile away. They can see us. We're in their environment. So we're at an extreme disadvantage in here trying to locate what would be a very small population of these individuals.
Now, where do you stand on like infrasound and other abilities that they say that these things might have?
Well, I think that's possible. I mean, that's not out of the realms of biological possibilities. And so that there could be something to that. And, by and large, your average report is just, I saw this thing, it was there, it walked into the woods, or it ran across the road like the sighting. And but occasionally you have people that say they felt something, or it was a vibration, or it was a force. So you can't really discount that they did have some kind of something, and certainly possibly these creatures have some abilities we don't quite understand.
Do you think that they could have some things that maybe we lost as we've gotten softer, I guess, as we've evolved ourselves and stuff, that they may have some of those, like their hearing is a lot better than ours, and their vision, and like you were saying a second ago, their smell, and just the rudimentary things like that they know we're in the woods before we could even walk up on them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're going to be sharp in the things they need to survive out here, whereas we're adapted to McDonald's. This is their full-time home, and they certainly, other animals. I mean, I've come up on some hogs out here, and they sensed me. They're 150 yards away, and somehow got wind, or they don't see very well, but they probably smelled me, and they just took off. I mean, they were way off. So, animals can smell you a long way, and certainly Bigfoot would presumably have all of those adaptations and abilities that we no longer have or have the need to. So.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I was going to mention the chameleon too. I mean, it can change colors. That's a pretty strange trait, right?
Yeah.
You'd almost think it was crazy paranormal, but really it's just the way it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another great example. I mean, if you showed that to somebody who didn't know anything about animals, except for had seen a few dogs and cats and rats, and then you showed them a chameleon, they'd be like, what planet did this thing come from? I mean, what is that? When it's just simply it's just something that thing can do. It's amazing. Nature is amazing.
Yeah, and there's a lot of animals that we don't even know of that's not even been brought to science yet.
Yeah.
They're still discovering new stuff every day. No telling.
Right. I mean, mostly smaller things, but they still are things that we previously did not know about. And even in the fossil record, they're coming across, different dinosaurs and different variations of animals that once existed. And I mean, there's just so much crazy variety.
Right. Well, I mean, it was in the 1900s really where we even really found the, the gorilla, and stuff. So, I mean, and the natives knew about them for a long time. So, I think that this is the same as far as Bigfoot
Right.
goes.
I mean, if you reported a mountain gorilla in 1900, that was a cryptid.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, people were like, "No, there's no gorillas up there," until the captain went up there and shot one, unfortunately, and then people believed it. Oops, yep, you're right.
I saw King Kong.
Right.
Well, a couple weeks ago, I was in an area where you'd wrote a book about too. I passed right by Louisiana, Missouri. So I know you had the Momo up there, the Missouri Monster. So it was sort of a little bit of everything with that one, wasn't it?
Yeah, that case was a weird one because it did have some other phenomenon reported in conjunction with sightings of a Bigfoot-like creature. Disembodied voices in the woods. People reported seeing, UFOs or strange lights. So, not to say that you can't say they're necessarily connected, but it gave that case some unique personality of weirdness that, makes it interesting and encompassing when you look at it as a whole, and also as a case that was kind of famous in the 1970s, like Boggy Creek. It just didn't have a movie, that was associated with it to make it, much more famous, but it was still just a really strange and really kind of spooky case when you look at those early encounters.
Yeah, it was weird. The first time I heard about that case was roughly 20 years ago. And it's weird how things happen. I was actually going on U.S. Highway 61, and I see the exit sign for Louisiana. I'm like, that's what they're talking about right now, It's just weird how sometimes stuff works out that way. You're just there. I almost turned that way, but I was like, nah, it's too late.
Yeah, there's not a lot to see, really. I mean, they don't have any. Here in Falk, we have the Monster Mart, which is like an amazing store with a giant Bigfoot on top and a, museum type thing inside. Up there in Louisiana, Missouri, there's nothing for Momo. There's no stores. There's not even a Momo hamburgers. I mean, it's just,
So
they haven't played it up.
Sort of want to forget about it almost, do you think? Or
They kind of do. It just seemed like I couldn't find many people enthusiastic about that. I'm like, man, it's cool. I mean, people love this stuff. I mean, Momo would be huge. Whether you don't have to believe in it or not. It just is. That's the story, and it's associated with your town. But nobody there they just kind of wanted it to go away. It seemed like.
yeah.
Well, Gatlinburg, until I would say 5 years ago,
This is their third annual this year. So
Well, I know, but until maybe the first conference,
yeah,
there you hardly ever heard of Smoky Mountain Bigfoot.
Yeah, it was the Wild Man is what I heard it as.
Tennessee Wild Man.
Yeah.
or Whistlejack was another name that they called the Bigfoot around here was Whistlejack. Yeah.
So, but now it's really big up there now.
Yeah, they can make money off of
Well,
it.
we've got that I know of 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 conferences this year. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show you. I mean, of course, when Bigfoot is, it's more popular, obviously, than if you have a Momo festival. Some people are like, "What is that?" But
It's that internet thing. That's what. They
that
about.
creepy internet thing.
I wouldn't want to see that thing either.
Yeah, it's way scarier than my book. I'm like,
So we do know that you have a brand new hot sauce.
Yeah.
You want to tell us about that? How'd that come about?
Right. Yeah, I've got Lyle Blackburn's original monster sauce, which is a hot sauce that I've always been into cooking and stuff like that. And I love to collect cool hot sauces and try different ones. I've got my refrigerator. I've got probably 15 or 20 in there of different ones I use on different things. And I just kind of by circumstance, a friend of mine had some hot sauce, and then I saw Elvira come out with a hot sauce, and I'm like, I need a hot sauce. That would be super cool. So, just I don't know, just because I thought would be fun. So, something to sell at my events, when I have the books and stuff, and So anyway, I found this bottling company that was working with hot sauces and things out of close to where I live, outside of Fort Worth, and I called that guy up and we worked it out. And so he's bottling it, and it's not a super hot sauce. It's not one of these where it's like, test your strength against this insane hot thing. It's very, it's got spice, but you can use it universally on many things. And it's focuses on taste, and heat. And so I've just gotten it out and started putting it. It's carried now in the Monster Mart here. It's carried at Cliffs Museum in Oregon. It's carried at the Bigfoot Museum out in Georgia. And I've got other retail places. And I actually sold some online for, about a day till I sold out of all the bottles I had.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's hard to find.
I don't know, because I was like, I saw that it was sold out because I was going to buy some. I'm a salsa fanatic. Yeah. I am. I eat salsa on everything and jalapenos on everything. And so I think it was because when I was younger, we moved from Tennessee to West Texas. And so I lived in West Texas up till I was about 13. And so I think, the bug bit me literally out there. And so it's salsa and peppers on everything. So, but yeah, I was wanting to get some, and then just like, you're sold out. I was like, oh, come on.
Yeah, it went fast, but yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I love different spices and peppers, and yeah, it went fast. I'm working out the bugs too by shipping something that's a food product, a glass bottle. I mean, I enter into another realm of where I'm trying to, if I'm pretty busy already, then I'm trying to fill orders for this thing, and I'm like, oh man, this is nuts. I had way more orders than I thought I'd get, and I didn't have bottles for, so I've just finally fulfilled all those, and then I'll have it back up there. I may release a little this week, but I've got a trip out to New Mexico, and then I'm back to Arkansas, and then after that I'll be back at home where I can deal with getting it out. But it's been fun, and the response has just been insane. So, but if anybody comes to my events, like come to the Fount Monster Festival or Mothman or whatever, easily I'll have it on the table to sell at my events.
Yeah, our best bet is to go down to Blue Ridge, Georgia at Expedition Bigfoot, because it's only 79 miles from here, but it's a lot of back roads, so it might take 2 or 3 hours.
yeah, they got it there, so that hopefully I can get it in more places that are more convenient. But for obviously the Bigfoot museums and my buddies, it's my first place I can get them in easily. So I'll be working on other places.
Yeah, well, I'll be looking for it as soon as I see it for sale again. You'll see my order.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like he said, it's not super hot; it's flavorful, so you can add it to everything.
Right, I'll just can put some on eBay and let people bid on it like that alien thing.
Yes.
I'm going to start at $1 million. That's a starting bid.
$1 million.
I can see you in your kitchen with your Bigfoot apron on,
Right.
looking out your window, looking for Bigfoot and cooking that salsa, right?
That's exactly. I need to take a picture like that for an advertisement.
Yeah.
All right. Now, be sure to send Project Dark Corona 10% of that because we came up with the idea.
Oh, yeah.
No, that was a freebie.
That's
That's a freebie.
That's no problem.
Okay.
No, that's awesome though. No, I think I like the commercial that you had with Cliff. That was hilarious. At first, I thought maybe I said, "Is that Bobo in the Bigfoot costume?" But when I saw him, I was like, "Oh no, he's way too short."
Yeah, that's my buddy Bigfoot Billy. He's from Texas, but he was up in Ohio. So we literally, I'm like, Cliff, dude, we got to shoot this commercial real quick. And 5 minutes between after the day shut down, he was about to do the live. They were going to do a live recording of Bigfoot and Beyond podcast. And then I'm like, so we ran down and did that like literally in like five minutes in the woods, and it's so hilarious.
Yeah,
and people are going crazy for that ad, and I'm like, oh my god, now it's selling more sauce than I've got.
Yeah, it's a good ad. I like it.
Yeah, it was funny,
especially when he comes up to our run, he's shaking.
Yeah.
You just have to have creative friends. You don't have to come up with these elaborate ideas like, hey, let's do this 5 minutes in between here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the funny part. I mean, I spent a year researching and writing a book, and then, I can put out a hot sauce and make a label and do a commercial in 5 minutes, and I sell like crazy.
That's hilarious.
It's just us crazy fans that want a little bit of what you got, and everybody has to eat. So you like a hot sauce on our food.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I think. I'm like, not everybody reads the books, and not everybody, watches the movies, but everybody eats. A lot of people love hot sauce, and this sounds fun. So I literally did it because it just seems fun.
It'll be the next Texas Pete.
It'll
be Texas Lyle.
That's right.
You'll have to have a cartoon of yourself in something. I don't know, sort of like that little lasso deal or something. I don't know what you would do different. But.
It'll happen, I'm sure.
I can't wait to try it once we get our hands on it.
I'll get it as soon as it comes up.
Yeah.
I'll buy like 10 bottles.
So we're going to take these last.
I don't
few
just
minutes.
buy one. I'll buy as many as I get. I'm that guy.
Right.
I'm that guy. I'm going ahead and saying it now.
We'll take these last few minutes and see if you want to give out your website, your books, your events that you're going to be at, and just whatever you want to say and promote yourself there a little bit.
Okay, yeah. I mean, you can find out more about me at my website at lyleblackburn.com, and that's got links to the places where you can, get my various books. You can find those on Amazon, and those come in hardback, paperback, and ebook editions. There's links there on lyleblackburn.com to Ghoultown, where you can check out the music. The music's available on iTunes and Bandcamp and everywhere else that you can find music. And my list of events there is also on lyleblackburn.com. I'll be out in Red River, New Mexico here in a week or two, and back at the Falk Monster Festival in Falk at June 19th. And then in the fall, I got a bunch of events, so hopefully see some of y'all back out there in the live world. And so yeah, I don't know what the rest of the night holds here. I'll describe the scene because I'm sitting on the back of my truck and it's almost dark right now, and I can hear the frogs and the insects kind of cranking it up there in the swamp. And as the sun is going down, I've been hearing more and more owls and other strange night birds from the woods. I see a strange light don't know what that is. I don't know if those are fireflies. No, there's small lights. And then, this is the place where there's been a lot of encounters. So hopefully we'll hear something out here. I heard a howl right down here back in, what year was that? 2014 or something. And, it's a good area, and it's definitely getting spooky out here. So just like I like it.
You got a video camera going?
Well, we have equipment. I don't have it on right at the moment, but we've got a little thermal camera and other audio recording in case in the event we do see or hear something. So hopefully something will go on. It's been raining down here like crazy, and it's been dry the last day or two, so maybe things are moving around.
Yeah, because when it rains, things tend to bed down a little bit.
Right. So.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on the show, taking the time to. You're pretty busy, and I know you got to be tired after that 2-hour hike you had.
Yeah. It's all good. It's all live for that stuff, so it's no problem at all.
All right.
I also want to say, though, that anybody could also come over to our project.corona.org under the events. After tonight, it'll be in the past events, but you could also catch all of Lyle's information in there. Lee puts all that stuff up for us. He's the man.
Thank you.
And so should have pretty much everything. And the cool thing about it is that all your books are listed. They could read excerpts, but they could also purchase right from our website. So, so there's another way of purchasing books if you can't get anywhere else, you could get there.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on the show, and we wish you luck tonight on your.
Absolutely.
Maybe you'll get some good evidence.
Maybe we could have you back on again sometime.
Yeah, I hope to have you back on again.
Yeah, right on. Sounds good. I really appreciate you guys having me on.
Yes, sir. And you have a good night. And
best of luck.
Yes, good luck on this, because hopefully you catch something good.
I hope you do. Yeah,
maybe you could put it to bed. You could be like, look, here it is. Here's a picture.
This is
That's
it.
right. Yeah.
Everyone, look. Yes.
For $1 million.
$1 million. I've got a picture for sale.
For the low price of starting at $1 billion.
That's right.
Yeah.
The only real photo.
Right.
The Beast of Boggy Creek.
That's right.
All right, Lyle, you have a good night, and hopefully we get to talk to you later.
All right, sounds good. Talk to you guys later.
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Bye. All right. That was Lyle Blackburn, everybody. That was fantastic, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
And we got him while he was on location.
Yeah.
Investigating. Oh,
Yeah.
man, we should have asked him about what he's got next. Forgot to do that.
He said something that he's got to go to Texas. And then...
No, I mean, as far as books and stuff.
Yeah, wow. Now we've got to have him on again.
Well, we got his phone number. We can call him.
Yeah.
There
we go.
We rub elbows with the big dogs every once in a while.
Right.
Well, email him or text him
Yeah.
or something. Yeah. At least tell us when you got some hot
We
sauce.
call him up.
Maybe
Hey,
get 20
please.
cases.
We call him up and say, I'm your biggest fan, Lyle.
Oh, great. Now he's going to change his number.
It's going to be like, okay, click. I'm putting it in. Do not talk to these guys again.
Spam.
No, but he really did paint a good picture, when he was describing everything. And,
Yeah.
He does that in his books, too.
Yeah.
His books are awesome. I listened this time to one
Yeah.
because I can't read right.
You gadgeted to 4K.
I can't read. I ain't a truck driver.
It's not from left to right. It's right to left.
Yeah. Anyway, I want to thank everybody that's come on Podbean Next time, we'd like you to go to projectdarkcorona.org. Get in that and sign up. It don't cost you a dime.
Yes. Come over, become a member. It doesn't cost nothing. And you could talk over here. And, we was posting pictures earlier on stuff we was talking about. These chat rooms over here that we've got on projectdarkcorona.org allows us to do that to where you can, it's a little more interactive. So, definitely come over and become a member and listen to the live shows over here. And we'd definitely appreciate it. We appreciate you anyway.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like Sherry, she posted a picture last week of that ghost picture.
Yeah, that was an awesome picture.
Yeah. So even whenever you're listening to us, you could post stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Now,
Please keep it, on the topic.
Right,
And
on topic and nice
yeah,
stuff.
nice stuff too, please.
We might have kids.
No
and-
selfies.
Right,
Yeah, this is a PG-rated show.
Yes.
So
PG-13 or something like that. Sometimes we say bad words we don't mean to. But,
Yeah. It might slip out every once in a
and
while.
sometimes we have EVPs of ghosts that say
Oh my
bad
gosh. Yes. Yes. You have to listen to that if you haven't heard it before.
Yeah. Now, next week, we're going to have June Lundgren, and she is a demon seer.
So she literally sees demons and everything that I've read, she can destroy them too.
She's sort of powerful, I guess.
Yeah.
You got Jason giving you a look, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
it can destroy demons.
Send them, not just send them back, but completely, they don't exist anymore.
Well, this is going to be an interesting show.
It is.
It
I'll
always
have
is on
nightmares.
Project Dark Corona.
Right?
I'll have nightmares all night.
Well, we'll get a hold of her, and you won't have the nightmares no more. She'll get them out of your nightmares.
Yeah, but they might come through these headphones and get me.
Oh, no.
I was watching a show. It was about a haunted house. It was a documentary, and the guy was making the documentary. And at the front of the documentary, it said these spirits could come through electrical devices and attach to you.
As you was watching it.
Yes.
Did you turn it?
No, I watched it 3 times.
Oh.
He was hoping for it. Come on.
I even got my wife watching it.
See, you always portray yourself as a scaredy cat.
Yeah.
You're not a scaredy cat.
Uh-huh.
You just in case something does happen.
That's it. If he does jump, then it's like, I told you.
He was almost like, what was that movie where that thing came through the TV? Was that The Circle or something?
Someone says
like
you're
that?
digging your own hole.
You are digging yourself your own hole.
Heck yeah.
Well,
Pop.
yeah.
Well,
And after June, we're going to have another Bigfoot. We're going to have Stephen Major. And he's going to talk about his Bigfoot expeditions. He's also been on the Alaskan Triangle.
okay.
And it shows
yeah.
like one of his expeditions that he goes out on.
That's that one where they're, that one monster that took over that whole town, wasn't it? The one that everybody's afraid of?
Right.
Yeah.
Where the cannery was
Yes.
and everything.
Yeah, that right there was a crazy thing that happened, and it was very well documented too.
Yeah. Body parts came
Yes.
up. Like
Floating
arms ripped
down
off
the
and
river
stuff.
and
Yeah.
stuff. Yes, yes.
Yeah. So, because, if you're canning fish, that's a business. They don't just leave for no
Nope.
reason. No, they just left.
Yeah, because the thing that he goes on, you see still everything there.
Right.
Like there's machines and stuff still there. You're like, what? They just said
Yeah.
stuff on this, and
Yeah.
they're gone.
Yeah.
Stuff on this.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's crazy. But
Goodness.
well, want to say thank you again, and we'll see everybody next week. Well, or we'll talk to you. How's that? And we'll see you in the chat room. Remember, projectdarkcorona.org. Also, remember, one last thing, when you go onto projectdarkcorona.org, you'll see a little thing over in the right-hand side that says Paranormality Radio. Click on that and vote for us. And last month, we made 9 of the top 25. Like Lee said, there's thousands in there, and we made 9 of the top 25, and we're trying to move on up.
Yep, it's almost the end of the month, so give us that extra push we need.
Yes, thank you, and I'm going to go ahead and thank you in advance. So we'll talk to you guys next week.
Coming to you live from an undisclosed location deep within the Appalachian Mountains, bringing you the unknown with your hosts David Reagan and Jason Scott. You're listening to Project Dark Corona.